Welcome back to the 4AO podcast. Today, we are breaking down the emotional, the exciting, the amazing ASU win over the weekend, 48-7 over the Wyoming Cowboys.
Forks were up, forks were high. The sunset vibes were crazy, but more importantly, I think that was the best representation of what Activate the Valley entails. What did you think about it, Strider?
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. You know, we had a show filmed last week. It got deleted, unfortunately. We will make sure to get pregame content out to you guys from now on.
For sure.
Just a little misstep. But we both predicted a win, but not in that fashion.
Yeah.
Let's go over the highlights of this game, shall we?
Sure. Let's get everyone up to date.
Okay, so to start the game, this is the second play of the game. An interception. And he runs it back for the pick six. My goodness, what a way to start the season. Second play of the game, Zyrus Fiaseu.
Zyrus Fiaseu.
Fiaseu.
Dude, I didn't even know his name either until he got that interception. And it took 42 seconds.
Look at that. He just jumped the route.
Yeah, that was
what an
pretty
incredible
nuts.
heads-up play. Now we move. The second offensive drive for Wyoming. Keep in mind, ASU offense has not stepped on the field, and Keyshawn Elliott with a heads-up play and gets out of bounds.
Started from a false start, forced him into a 3rd and 23, pinned back our ears, had the pass rush, and then Svoboda thought he saw it going on to his progressions, thought he saw an open receiver, and it was done.
Yes, sir. And then we have a touchdown here by DeCarlos Brooks.
I love that one. That's my play.
That's your play, dude. We are now up 17-0.
And it's the second quarter.
Yes, sir.
That's
Wildcat.
crazy.
Wildcat by Cameron Scadaboo.
Let's go.
What a play call for the Sun Devils as they celebrate. So they're on their way to a blowout here.
That's crazy.
Now Leavitt here. Nice little drop back. He evades some pressure. Throws on the run to Cameron Mateer for the 25-yard touchdown. What a play. They are just absolutely laying it on the Cowboys at this point. And now Cowboys on offense. But look, a little bit of controversy. Was that a backwards pass? We don't know. But we will take the points. Justin Woodley.
Yeah, just
6-yard fumble return, touchdown, scoop, and score. It's a blowout at this point. 41-0.
Damn. 41-0.
And they were not done. Kyson Brown on a little screenplay takes it 68 yards to the house. This one was a no-doubter as he outran all of Wyoming's defense.
That was like the perfect HB screen. Like you saw his blocks go to the second level and you knew it was gone if he broke it.
Yes, dude. You couldn't have executed the play any better than that. And we get a quick little replay of that. Wow. Couple nice moves, a broken tackle.
Oh, man. I was going crazy when I saw that.
Yes, dude. Absolutely. And, one more time. And that is it for our highlights of the game. It was an exciting one, guys. Trev, just tell me overall thoughts on the game.
I saw an identity. I saw an established identity on both sides of the ball, and I couldn't be more reassured. I think everyone who came into this game really didn't have an idea what this team was going to play like, what the identity was going to be. Essentially, I think because Kenny Dillingham recruited so much talent, so much in the trenches, so many skilled players at the running back position. And like I said, we were going to have a top 5 Big 12 running back room. I think they showed that they're a top 5 Big 12 running back room. And more importantly, I think Kenny Dillingham stayed true to his talent, to his skill sets, and he attended to their strengths by really just making up this game plan that ultimately fought fire with Wyoming, because if anything, this was the formula for Wyoming last Saturday.
Yeah, no, Wyoming's formula typically is to run the ball, run it down your throats, and have good defensive line play.
Time of possession,
everything that goes along with being a grit and grind team.
Definitely.
And Wyoming is his team, I believe, 8 or 9 wins.
They were 9-4. Yeah,
9-4 last year.
Beat a Texas Tech, went into OT with Texas.
Yes, dude, they were tied with Texas going into the fourth quarter. This is not a bad squad. A lot of the Mountain West
Yeah.
truthers out there are like, well,
Well, look,
they're
they
not
were
that good,
they were
but
projected to be 6th in the Mountain West.
they are a solid Mountain West
So, like,
team.
yeah, you can go look at the U of A game, and oh yeah, they're playing New Mexico. New Mexico is projected to be last in the Mountain West. We're playing a mid-tier Mountain West team.
Yeah.
We made them look like an SES opponent.
Yeah, it was absolutely stunning, and it was great. Hey, let's move on to our offensive and defensive plays of the game.
For sure.
You can start.
Yeah, so my offensive play in the game is more about this really cool call that Kenny puts out, and it's mainly about the tempo. So essentially, we're going into the end of the first quarter, and the coach always has the call on what kind of momentum they want to have going into that first quarter. And they were very, very extravagant in the way where they were trying to put some points on the board. I mean, you saw that sense of urgency through the entire first quarter, but it was down to the last second. And so I chose this as my offensive play of the game because I just loved what Josh Atkins was doing. He was helping the blindside block as the left tackle, helping with the first level, and then immediately gets to the second level, seals off their main middle linebacker one, and it gives to Carlos Brooks just a little bit of separation, a gap. He had great gap integrity, and he just pushed it in there. And what I really love about this is because of the tempo, the whole thing is it's a 2nd and 1. You're not really forcing anything. You don't have to get a touchdown. All you really have to do is pick up that first down. But ultimately, you just see an urgent offense that wants to put points on the board and get their defense out as fast as possible. I think we really gravitate towards the energy on our defense. We really feed off of how well they're playing. And ultimately, I think that is going to be the formula for the rest of the year. It's let's keep the defense as long as they can on the field, keep the offense less time on the field because that just infers that they're scoring points. And ultimately, if we're just consistent in this approach, I really like our running game. We were picking up 4 to 5 yards every single running play. It wasn't funny. So this is why I chose my offensive play of the game with the DeCarlos Brooks touchdown going into the end of the first quarter.
Before the quarter ends, DeCarlos Brooks is into the end zone and touchdown Sun Devils.
On the last play of the quarter.
It was as if they were going to let the clock run out in the opening quarter. Brooks checks in and then checks into the end zone.
Well, they liked Carlos Brooks. He got hurt last year, transferred from Cal where he played a couple seasons, very productive, kind of a Lindale White zone.
And we are back. All right. Now it's time for my defensive play of the game.
Okay, let's hear it.
A rumbler. Fumble, return for touchdown.
Scoop and score.
Scoop and score. The game was out of hand at this point. It was 34-0. But
oh my gosh,
I absolutely love a scoop and score. And, Coach Dillingham talked about in his after the game presser. He said, that's something they've practiced, the relentless going for the ball. And, I saw Deion Sanders in his meeting. I think it may have been this morning talking about the exact same thing. All 11 players going for the ball and just how beautiful that can be when it happens. And I saw that from ASU on this play, so let's take a look.
Pass, that may be a behind the back. That may be a loose ball, and ASU has it, and the Sun Devils are in for a touchdown. It's Justin Wadley.
And we're back, Trev. What a play.
Yeah, I think it's cool because they didn't show any complacency being up 34-0. They came out of that second half as fired up as they were in the beginning of the game. So I really liked the Woodley scoop and score. I also really loved that Keyshawn Elliott interception on that 3rd and 23. That was electric. That just stopped all their momentum. I think they were really shook after that. But in terms of really reviewing on this game, it's a lot of it could have been some of the students just left after they were up 34-0 because of how happy they were. And ultimately, it's a good sign. You want these kids to be leaving on a good reason, on a good cause. But when we're breaking down the overview of the ASU Wyoming games, some really cool features that kind of caught our eye was the press conferences that had to do with reviewing this game and ultimately finally being able to see Kenny Dillingham and some of our Sun Devils in speaking with reference to what had happened to their plays. So ultimately, I got some really unique quotes. So one of my favorite quotes was when Kenny Dillingham was asked about Brian Ward's impact coming from Wazoo, Washington State. You've played against him for many years. What has he brought to this defense, the energy, the intensity, and the aggressive nature that we saw on display tonight? Kenny Dillingham's response: we played aggressive. We don't play scared. We play to be as aggressive as possible, and I think that's what our guys believe in. We're going to attack on defense. Tonight, we swarm the football. You could see the effort. You're watching the RB get tackled by 4 to 5 guys almost every single snap. A testament to the coaches and what they're demanding as the expectation, with star players such as X, Shamari, Keyshawn, just having that sense of authority and just really just trying to set some sort of impression for this defense, set a good standard. And so ultimately, I think they were able to carry on a lot of that good energy from their preseason, their Camp T practice. I mean, ultimately, those experiences has shaped them into being this defense that was as aggressive. And then when we're talking about some of my favorite quotes within the players, essentially, one of my favorite questions I was asked was, Coach Cooper says you guys describe yourselves as werewolves when they're talking to Zyrus Fiaseu and Keyshawn Elliott. What was going on? And so Keyshawn immediately speaks up and says, I think that's the identity we have as a room. There's no days off no matter who we're playing, big school or small school. We're going to do whatever it takes to trust the process and to prepare. And I think my favorite quality from Sam Leavitt's presser was the fact that he really embodied next drive mentality. So what next drive mentality is to really just wash everything that's happened in the past, even washing the most previous drive, clearing it from your mind, from all the headspace, and committing to the next drive, to the next play, giving it that 100%. And so this feature goes into play when we're up 24-0 coming out of halftime, but ultimately Sam Leavitt is just telling everyone on the bench, telling everyone on the sideline, hey, they could still come back. Game's not over. It doesn't matter if it's 24-0. We still need to produce on offense. We still need to have efficient drives, and we need to get the ball back so that our defense can ultimately pin back their ears and play. So those were some of my favorite quotes from those press conferences. I thought they were very enjoyable watches. Ultimately, you love to kind of document a good W, a good game. But when we go through adversity through the rest of this season, I think it's going to be really cool and telling just to see the kind of emotions that this team goes through.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, we didn't get to see a lot of this team in the offseason, a lot of new transfers. This isn't like Wyoming where they had 17 returning starters.
We are the second highest newest players in the entire nation. We had 60 new players coming in for the Sun Devil Nation. The third best was 55 in Colorado.
Oh my goodness.
So we're above Colorado right now. Kenny Dillingham is doing his own Deion Sanders pull right now. It's pretty crazy.
It is crazy, and it just showed we didn't know what to expect coming into this game.
Definitely not.
We knew what to expect from Wyoming a little bit. They had some injuries, especially in their running back room, which did ultimately hurt them, and you can tell. But outside of that, we kind of knew what they were, and it was just such a good opportunity to see this team finally and the relentless energy that they played with.
Definitely.
That defensive line, it's as advertised.
They got depth, too.
They got depth, and they were in the backfield so often.
Yeah, they were stopping the run, too.
They were stopping the run, and this Wyoming team is such a good running team.
Yeah, a lot of returning players. We were facing against upperclassmen, so it was cool to see.
Yeah, it was so cool, and set the tone for the rest of the year. You can expect a good, competitive ASU team, and we were a little bit promised that, right? It's something we kind of expected. We expected us to be at least competitive, but this is a team that can go out and they can upset, a Kansas State maybe, right? This is a team, when you play like this, when you play scrappy football, you can go and you can take a game from a team that's better than you.
Mm-hmm. It's giving us a lot of faith. I honestly wanted to ask Strider, how did it feel from your perspective? I know we were both in just different parts of the student section. It was a really cool experience. I think that was the second highest student attendance in all of ASU football games, in which, we showed up. The student section showed up, and obviously we're trying to match that on Saturday on ESPN prime time. We're trying to beat the record.
Yeah.
But man, what was your feeling walking into that stadium and then ultimately seeing that Zyrus Fiaseu pick six? And how'd you feel, man?
Honestly, it was just disbelief. When I walked,
Yes, that's how I feel
I
too.
was walking in and it was packed.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never had to wait to get into, never had to get in line to get to an ASU game before, right? And I came maybe like 15 minutes before kickoff, got to do, you know, the key jangling and all that good stuff. It was a lot of fun. But then the second play of the game being a pick six was just unbelievable.
Man.
It felt really good. And I was walking up with my friends and they're like, it's gonna be a rough game. You
Yeah,
know?
they
I'm just here because it's the first game of the season. And I told them, no, guys, this is gonna be a good one. You're gonna want to stick around for this one. And ultimately, I was right. It was a fantastic game, a fantastic showing for your Sun Devils.
If anything, it exceeded expectations, because even when I was doing the depth chart video last week, I was talking about these recipes, these exact recipes. Like, look, we got to spread things out. We have to run the ball and we have to stop the run. We're going to control the time of possession. We're going to handle the trenches. We're going to be more aggressive than the other team, than our opponent. And ultimately, we're going to feed off of this momentum by just basically being ahead of the chains. We're never going to put Sam Leavitt in a situation where he's uncomfortable going into a 3rd and 14. Pretty much having a detailed quarterback that was so established in this identity, you could just see how comfortable he was. I mean, he was delivering really good checks with the offensive line protection. He was obviously, managing the whole entire offense, the consistency of just moving those chains. And ultimately, I think I was very impressed to see every single running back was running for 5 yards. It wasn't just Cam Scoutabu. DeCarlos Brooks was balling out. I loved to see Kyson Brown balling out. That was really reassuring to see. Ultimately, we saw limited time from Alton McCaskill, but he's another player. And then you see Raleek Brown. He isn't even dressed yet. So it's like, what is the expectation from this RB room? I don't think you could really put a word to it, because they're just proving us wrong every single week. And this is just unprecedented offense for Kenny Dillingham. He's never had this kind of running offense before. He's just used to an air raid offense. So it was really cool to see us just ground and pound on Saturday.
Yeah, to give you the actual stat line, 4.9 yards per carry on 241 yards.
Wow, and we outran Wyoming by 201 yards.
That's unreal.
That's nuts. That's nuts. That is actually crazy. Wyoming had 40 rushing yards.
40.
And they're a running team.
Now, they did turn over the ball in the air a lot, but
even
it's
then,
still Wyoming, man.
Evan
It's
Swoboda
Wyoming.
didn't recover.
He did not.
Let's be real. You want to hear his stat line?
Let's go for it.
6 for 15, 42 yards.
6 for 15. Wow.
Dude, I think you could do that. Come on, you could hit a few drags, right?
Maybe it was a screen every time.
Maybe you get injured, midway through, because it's just so hard to go up against our D line. But come on, you're able to little dink and dunk 6 times in a matter of 2.5 hours.
I know for sure I could have thrown those interceptions that he threw.
Oh man, that's brutal. That's brutal.
Yeah. He did not have a great game, and it was our first time seeing him with Wyoming. So we didn't really know what he was going to do. And once again, this is something you missed out on our pregame videos. We talked about this.
The biggest feature is Wyoming's change of coaching staff. So they had a Craig Boole, so he was running the Wyoming program for a good decade. He really established this identity, and they resonated with it every single year. But then we have Jay Savell take over. He was originally the defensive coordinator for Wyoming, and now he is finally the head coach. And ultimately, I just didn't see that sense of authority from this team. They just weren't bouncing back. And you could just see it just by the way they were composing themselves. They had their shoulders slumped after the first quarter. So really cool features. I think this just ensues a lot of confidence now going into the season. Ultimately, I feel a lot confident in saying that we are a Big 12 competitor now. What do you think? Do you think we're going to compete in the Big 12 now?
Yeah, so if you saw our video just a month or two ago, I was not very confident. But this performance, I get it's a Mountain West team and kind of a mid-Mountain West team, but come on. We saw a lot of things that are replicable.
Yep.
Even if we're not playing a Wyoming, running games go on the road and they still put up numbers.
Yeah.
So that's something that gives me hope for a very competitive season. And going forward in our schedule, a Mississippi doesn't look losable, or it doesn't look like it's a guaranteed loss now.
I think it even looks like a guaranteed win because they've never dealt with a team like us. I mean, ultimately, they played U of A last year in their out-of-conference game, and it took them until overtime to beat U of A.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that was a Pac-12 U of A. This is a Big 12 ASU.
Yeah.
Like, I think a Pac-12 ASU has a different brand to it than a Big 12 ASU now because it's attending to our identity. Like, it matches our energy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm so excited. But, hey, let's break down the box score.
Yeah, let's break down some stats. So what's kind of showing to us on paper right now, we already brought up that we pretty much outran Wyoming at least 4x'd. Like, we 4x'd their rushing yards. But I just want to acknowledge a few things. So I really loved the mobility of Sam Leavitt. He rushed he had 8 carries for 47 yards, averaged 6 yards per carry. The point of the matter was they weren't designed runs. And I established this in the depth chart. I wanted Sam Leavitt to be him, unapologetically Sam Leavitt. I didn't want him to play like Jeff Sims. I didn't expect him to play like Jeff Sims. I just wanted him to have good decision-making. Ultimately, he's not a dual-threat quarterback. He's a great decision-maker, and you have to use your legs when it comes to being a good quarterback in college football when it comes to decision-making, because sometimes you do need to extend the play. But this was seen in the first half. This was seen in spurts of these really good drives that were moving these chains. Like, if he wasn't seeing something, he wasn't hesitant to rush for a good 6 yards and pick up, move those chains. But I loved to see Scadaboo and DeCarlos both at 47, 49 yards. They were definitely dominant. They were picking up 4 yards per carry. I really loved that entire Kyson Brown HB screen, but Kyson Brown, Jason Brown, they both look like really good backs. Ultimately, my favorite stat is this. Sam Leavitt, 14 for 22, 258, and 2 touchdowns. So, look, it's not going to blow our minds to see, oh, man, your quarterback's just making 14 completions. They're not going to be a good team. Ultimately, it's about the efficiency of how he got those 14 completions. He was making the right reads. They were feeding off the run, doing a lot of play actions, and that's what I acknowledge in the depth chart, that this is the recipe for success. When you run the ball, you feed off of it with time of possession, and you create play action schemes. And ultimately, I loved seeing everything from Sam Leavitt. He looked like a very competent college quarterback. Ultimately, our receiving looked really good. I didn't see any splash plays, but it's because we didn't need the splash plays. We just needed to be on time with our running game, and ultimately we would hit those short passes, and sometimes I saw some yak. I was very impressed by the yards after catch made by Jordan Tyson. He looked very explosive. Also impressed with Jake Smith's explosiveness. I think they're going to feature him a lot in a lot of bubble screens, a lot of jet sweeps. I think we're going to really leverage his speed, and ultimately it was noticeable. Like, it's cool. He hadn't played for 1,000 days. That's almost damn near 3 years. Yeah. So I'm proud of that guy, honestly, coming out here, putting out for his hometown. He's a hometown kid, and transferring from USC, it's a change, but now he's here, and he's really just making a name for himself. And then when we go into defense, one thing that I was completely shocked by was the guy Miles Rouser. I thought he was the most aggressive player on that defense. Obviously, everyone was aggressive. They were attacking the ball. That's why I feel so confident about our defense, because we really, really attacked that ball. It was like wherever the ball was going, you saw 4 or 5 guys going there. And I'm not even saying that because Kenny said that. I genuinely felt that in game. I was like, that is cool that we are surrounding the ball. But Miles Rouser had 5 total tackles. He had an amazing slot cornerback, strong safety role. He even gave a little pop to Evan Sabota in the first quarter that really I think that woke him up, and it kind of scared him a little bit. But ultimately, Keyshawn Elliott had the green dot. He was calling the plays for the entire defense. He had the most amount of tackles in 7, and ultimately that interception was just nuts. He was flying. Like, it was like Space Jam. He was like, oh, it's a 3rd and 23. Great. Let's get a turnover right now. So I love to see Keyshawn Elliott, Zyrus Fiaseu. Their energy really feeds off of each other, and I feel confident with this linebacker room. How do you feel about some of the stats? Did anything catch your eye, Stry?
So what really caught my eye was obviously Sam Leavitt.
Yeah.
just to go off what you were saying about his running, I was really impressed with not just his running, but the ability to navigate the pocket correctly.
Yes,
That's a skill
yes.
that is hard to develop. You see some NFL guys struggling.
He didn't take any bad sacks. Like
No.
he got sacked, of course. It's gonna happen.
I think let's take a look at how many.
I think he got sacked twice.
I think it was either 1 or 2 times. Yes, twice. You
Twice.
are correct.
Okay.
So I was just really impressed with his ability to
Yeah.
keep his head up, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys, their first instinct is to run once the pocket breaks
Yeah.
down, but he was still looking to get some, he was looking to see if guys were open, and it showed a lot of composure. It showed that he was comfortable in what he was doing, and Dillingham had coached him in a way that he didn't have to think about the play. He didn't have to think about what his receivers were doing. He knew.
They were just on time.
And if they were in the right place, he knew
Yep.
if he threw it there, they were going to be ready for him. And showed good coaching, good pocket presence by Leavitt.
Everyone
and then,
fed off of him too.
yes, and then when it was time to put his head down and run, he got some good yards. How many did he get per carry? 5.9 yards per carry. That's very, very solid.
Yeah.
And he can work
And
on
they
his
weren't
sliding.
scrambles. They weren't like like anxious scrambles. Like they were like, okay, there's no reads, or I've already done my reads. There's no one open. It's okay to process this play, and I can just extend the play and just get some yards.
Yeah, and he needs to work on his sliding.
Yeah,
That was a little
that was
concerning. There was a couple times I was like, oh, like maybe don't next time. But
I just loved how on time he was. It was really cool seeing how the receivers fed off of it, because even when they had a good little 5 and out, a good little slant, you could tell they were like, finally I got the ball, but it's good. Like, I'm going to get some yak now. Like, I'm going to get another 6 yards to this short pass, and I'm going to make the most out of it, because I'm just so happy that we have such a consistent offense. And I think that's the formula. Like, when you're consistent on all facets of your game plan, everyone's going to feed off of it and just be the best versions of themselves. And I saw Sam Leavitt be the best version of himself, and he feels that way too. I definitely got that energy in the presser.
absolutely. And it's really impressed with his throwing down the middle.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
A lot of guys kind of struggle because those are dangerous passes.
Yeah.
Throwing outside to the corners is a little bit easier for some guys, but Leavitt, he was making those passes down the middle, and they were right on time. There was very rarely where the wide receiver or the tight end had to slow down to catch the ball. It was in stride.
Progression, yeah.
It was exactly what this team needed.
And we have good tight ends. Like, we're going to have to target the middle of the field for sure this year.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this up, dude.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're feeling.
So ultimately, very reassured. Very reassured. Like, I honestly think we are a very good mid-tier Big 12 team. Like, we could make a run. I think literally this entire home territory helps us. I'm so happy that we're going to host Kansas. We're going to host Utah back-to-back weeks because it's at home. Like, I love hosting these games. And I think one of the coolest features of the press conference was when Zyrus and Keyshawn were like, look, we didn't expect the entire home crowd to be that loud. Like, we didn't expect the energy to be that infectious. And even Sam even acknowledged it. When I came out of that tunnel, I had no expectation that it was going to be that loud. And ultimately, they even reassured us as fans, like, look, we need you guys. Like, even in the fourth quarter, you guys were loud, but like, we need you guys. We feed off of that. Like, his pick six, like I said, it really just woke up the entire crowd, and it had them so engaged and enthusiastic for Sun Devil football, something we haven't had in years. So, I mean, I think we finally have a why right now. Why are we a Sun Devil fan? It's an easy answer. It's because this is a consistent running game. It's a very turnover-happy defense. Ultimately, with all this newness, they're exceeding expectations, and that's what you want to see from a young squad like this.
Yeah, and energy was there.
Yeah.
The play calling was there. All the coaches felt like they did what they were supposed to.
Oh, yeah, they all had their hand in the pot.
They put their players where they were supposed to be, and that's what good coaching looks like. Not consistent offensive penalties during the Herm Edwards era.
Yeah, and making mental mistakes and not recovering from it. Like, you could tell they're like, on to the next. And you even acknowledged it last week. Brian Ward brought over this scoring defense type of mentality, and we saw it. Like, I have never seen a more aggressive defense from this school. This was my most favorite game I've ever watched at Sun Devil Stadium, Mountain America Stadium. I was shocked.
I was shocked. And this was not a fluke.
Yeah.
In Brian Ward's, I believe it's his 12-year career.
Yeah.
His defenses on average get around 20 turnovers over a season. 20.
And we got 3.
And we got 3. So expect in most of his career, 1.8 turnovers per game is the norm. Last year was not the norm.
Wow.
So get used to turnovers. This is a defense that's going to fly.
We're going to need it too.
And we're going to need it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. That is all for the show today. All we have to say is show up for the Mississippi State game.
Oh my God.
We're
Saturday
on ESPN?
night. We're on ESPN. It's a night game. We have never beaten an SEC opponent in this program's history.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like, it's bigger than breaking the student attendance record. Like, it's about actually making a motive with this entire city that we revolve around Sun Devil football. We're going to be there for them, and this is going to be an exciting year of Big 12 football. I can't wait to play some Big 12 opponents. I think we're going to do well.
It's going to be absolutely exciting, but thank you guys for joining us today. I'm Strider.
I'm Trev. Thank you guys so much. Trevanchi Takes. I love it all. I can't wait to break down the boys for the entire year.
Yes, sir. This is the 4AO podcast, a part of the 4AO experience, and thank you for tuning in today.